had covered up till shloka number 12. Can someone confirm?
Yes, Prabhuji, shloka number 12 is finished.
Shloka number 12 we had covered. So today we will continue from there and try to see how much we can do in the 5th chapter. So before we start, let us offer our prayers to Guru Parampara. So all of you can recite the prayers along with me. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langhayate girim Yatkripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Offering our prayers to Lord Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavadgita. Prapanna Parijataya Totravetraika Parnaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrita Duhe Namaha. Let us quickly recite the shlokas for memorization. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava Prachami tvam dharma sammudha cheta Yashreyasya nishchitam brohi tanme Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara Tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati Najayate mriyate va kadachin Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano Nahanyate hanyamane sharire Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam tayapahrita chetasam Vivasayadvika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu Sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. The next part shlokas also we will practice. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkratam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः यहि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I think we lost you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
I'm sorry, I'm actually at a different place and I'm just trying to ensure some network connectivity. And I pray that we are connected in this session at least. I may at some point of time switch off my video if in case the bandwidth is too low. And we were in the middle of the 5th chapter. So if you remember, last time we had done 12 shlokas. So today we will continue from there. I need the screen sharing, right, Dasarath Prabhu? You need to make me again the co-host.
I will make you host, Prabhuji.
So last time when we had discussed the 5th chapter, we had stopped at the 12th shloka we had completed and we had stopped. So the 5th chapter starts with the description of, actually it's a question of Arjuna, and Krishna is replying to that question, and that answer is something very similar to the 3rd chapter, but it is much more at an advanced stage. So the chapter 5 and chapter 3 are very similar, so the both are actually karma yoga, but the difference in chapter 5 is, any of you remember, I had discussed a little about it. What's the difference between chapter 3 and chapter 5?
Chapter 5 is more advanced, Prabhuji. Advanced.
Yeah.
Advanced stage of karma yoga.
Correct.
Includes your renunciation of the fruits of action from self-realization to God realization.
Yeah. So it also shows the 5th chapter, though it is karma yoga topic, but it's an advanced stage, and we will see the evolution of the karma yogi to Paramatma realization, God realization. So this is very clear when we study this chapter. The chapter is technically called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. The sannyasa spirit while doing the karma or the duties. The work in the spirit of renunciation that is easier than renouncing the work. We had seen this in the first 6 shlokas. Then there was a description of the advanced stage of Nishkama Karma Yoga up till the shloka number 12. So let's quickly see, that's where we had stopped last time. Let's quickly see the translation of shloka 12, and then we will continue from there. So
Prabhuji,
please read
what is the difference between God realization and self-realization?
Yes. As the very name suggests, in the self-realization, one is understanding that one is not this matter and he is different from this body. That's his understanding.
Yeah,
but in God realization, a person understands who is that Supreme and what is the relationship of that himself with that Supreme. If you see the conclusion of 4th chapter, I request you to see the last shloka's purport. There was a description about this. Let me put that in the screen here. The shloka number is 4.42. Yes. In this, if you carefully see this, when we come to, see from here. Can you read this?
Yes, when we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two, namely understanding of one's own self or one's constitutional position and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So first time in the 4th chapter, Lord spoke about his own position, how his position is different from the jivas, either conditioned or liberated. In the 4th chapter, he did speak. And in the 5th chapter, in the 4th chapter, it was spoken as a transcendental knowledge composition. Now in 5th chapter, that person starts to realize the role of super soul in the actions he does. So that will become very evident in today's discussion. We will see this. So he will start to understand the super soul's role in the life, and he understands that he has to surrender to him. That vision of the Lord being present in every jiva in the personal form, that will be very clearly evident in his realization in this chapter. So that's why that evolution you can see compared to the 3rd chapter, here you can see his evolution into personal realization.
Will this be correct to say, like moving from Sankhya Yoga to devotional services?
Yeah, devotional service is personal realization. So you can say that, no problem. Yes. He is moving actually from karma yoga. It's not Sankhya necessarily, karma yoga. Technically speaking. So technically speaking, karma yogi may have a very little understanding, but not realization of personal form of the Lord. He may have an understanding of in theory, and he offers the worship to the Lord. But in the Paramatmavadi realization, he in fact realizes that form. He goes to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. That will come very evident in the last
stage then, Prabhuji.
Our state is actually to say we have an understanding of Bhagavan. We have an understanding of Bhagavan. We have received the understanding and the mercy of Lord through his devotee. So we are at the sadhana bhakti stage. That is above, as we had seen in the yoga ladder, where an intervention of devotee happens. So that is, though we are at the karma yoga, but we are already at the sadhana bhakti. And because of the performance of bhakti, all this progression is becoming faster, like that. Because we are directly offering the worship to the Lord, personal form of the Lord, that is Bhagavan, not just Paramatma, like that. So let us take it ahead. We will go to shloka number 12. Yeah. Please read the translation. Any of you? Yeah, please read.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
So, a karma yogi, he has so far realized himself as different from the body, and he's slowly offering the fruits of his labor to the Supreme. Now, from here, the description of Krishna shifts into understanding how the work actually happens in this world. Any action in this world, how it actually happens. This realization, who all are involved in making an action happen, that is very made clear in this particular 4 or 5 shlokas, starting from 13 up till 16. This is a very technical explanation, but it's very important explanation. I'll try to get some examples for it to make it easier. But it is to show, suppose we do something in this world and we get a reaction for it. So who is responsible for the reactions? We see that something we do, it is actually made happen by our senses. And the sense objects are coming in touch with the senses. So that means there is material nature involved, which is called Prakriti. Everything we see in this world happening is nothing but interaction between senses and its corresponding sense objects. Say, suppose I am eating. The sense of, the rasa. The sense object is the rasa, and the sense is tongue, jihva. So these two are interacting. When I am seeing something, the sense object of, vision, and the sense is eyes, netra or drishti. So these are interacting. So everything in this world is nothing but interaction between senses and sense objects. Say, suppose we are hearing something. The sound and the organ of sound, the sense organ for the sound, that is ears, are interacting. Is it not? So everything can be put under this. So this is one understanding of the action. At the same time, in the Shastras, we hear that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of God. Is it not? That's also a famous statement. So who is actually responsible for the actions? Who has to be given the reaction of the action? Say, suppose something unjust happens. Who has to be blamed? That might be a question. So for which Krishna will answer that in these shlokas. Sarva karmani manasa.
Sarva karmani manasa.
Sanyasyaste sukham vashi.
Sanyasyaste sukham vasi.
Navadvare pure dehi.
Navadvare pure dehi.
Naiva kurvan nakarayan.
Naiva kurvan karyan.
So Krishna says, Navadvare pure dehi. The body is compared to a pura. Pura means a city. Dwaraka Puri, Mathura Puri, Jagannath Puri. Puri means a city. And in this city, what is there? Navadvara. There are 9 doors. Dwar. Doors. It's a city which having 9 gateways or doors, inside which the Atma, who is called Dehi, is staying. So, Karma Yogi who is advancing understands that how he is actually situated in the body. He is not the body, he is in the body. The body is like a city with 9 gates. And understanding this, what he does, he manasa sanyasya. Like sometimes you hear the word manasa puja. Have you heard this word? Manasa puja. And if you know this word manasa puja, no? Okay. Usually we say puja is done by, say, suppose flowers, some dhoop, some wicks, some lamp, all this, right? Say, suppose a person is not in a situation to offer this. So he meditates in his mind and offers all of those articles in mind. It is called Manasa Puja. There is a very famous story in this regard in Nectar of Devotion. How a Brahmana, very poor person, but a very simple but very devoted to Lord, he wanted to offer a payasam to Lord. This actually happened at a place called as Pratishtanpur on the banks of Godavari. So it comes in the Maharashtra to Telangana area. That's where it comes. This place is located actually. So it's told that he wanted to offer the very nice kheer or payasam to the Lord. So he did not had anything. So he started to meditate, sitting in samadhi, that now I bring the best of the rice, the best and chosen milk, and he gets some very nice, kadi shakkar or crystal sugar, and he starts to prepare that very nicely. He's preparing it, and it is being made. The kheer is made. Now the kheer has to be offered cold, not hot. Kheer is of this, especially the rice kheer, milk rice kheer, sweet rice is offered cold. So he kept it for making it cool. And he wanted to check how hot is the kheer. So he tried to touch it to see whether it's sufficiently cold. but it was still very hard. And this is all happening not actually physically, it is all happening in his meditation, in his mind. And when he touched it, he felt it was so hot, so much so that his hand burnt. When he came out of the meditation, he could really see his finger burnt. And in the Vaikuntha, Lord Vishnu started smiling. Seeing the smile of her husband, Lakshmi, she asked, "What happened, oh my Lord?" Then Lakshmi was explained by Lord that here is my devotee who is offering kheer in the mind, and I'm relishing it, and he just got burnt like this. So Lakshmi felt very pity on this Brahmana. He wants to serve, but why are you putting him in material world in such a poor condition? Why don't you bring him soon? I'm going to bring him very soon. So like this, Lord assured her, and very soon he got that devotee back into Vaikuntha. So this story is told to show the power of devotional service, which when offered even in mind can give supreme result. Yeah. So this is to show, explain a very key word of manasa puja. Similarly, the word used here is manasa sannyasa or manasa sannyasa. Can someone correlate what does this mean in the light of manasa puja? What does manasa sannyasa mean?
Renunciation in the mind.
What does that mean? Explain it little.
Yeah, you don't have to show it externally that you have renunciated everything, but internally you know that you're not attached to anything.
So the sannyasa is done in the mind of a karma yogi. For a karma yogi, the sannyasa is in the mind. So Krishna is telling, Sarva karmani manasa sannyasyaaste. You renounce everything in the mind. Do not be attached to it. At the same time, understand that this world, this body itself is external to you. It is like a city in which you are staying. No one says that I am Hyderabad or I am Pune, right? Because we know that we are different from the city. We change the cities when we move from one city to another, is it not? So, similarly, the Karma Yogi clearly understands he is different from the body. And he has a very important understanding in the last line shown here. Naiva kurvan na karayan. All the actions are happening with respect to the body, and he is not doing anything, nor is he forcing others to do. Very important to understand. Someone read the translation. When the embodied
living being controls his nature, when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Hare Krishna, am I audible? Hare Krishna.
Now you are audible, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I got disconnected. I'm sorry. So you read the translation, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Should I read again,
Yeah.
Prabhuji?
Yeah. No, it's okay. So we'll go to the purport. So what is told here is the same as I explained the word to word. Now we will go to the purport. Prabhupada describes the purport more better. Please read the highlighted part.
The embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body or the figurative city of the body are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies the material body and therefore suffers.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting statement. How is it that a soul who is of a spiritual nature comes under the control of material nature? It's a very important thing to ponder over, you know. So Prabhupada explained in one of the purports earlier that how it happens. The soul is called as Anu, and he is Anu in the sense that he is very infinitesimal. Though his qualities are very similar to the Supreme Lord, he is spiritual in nature, yet at the same time, he is infinitesimal. In that sense, he can be taken over, or he can come under the influence of material nature. Another example Srila Prabhupada gives in a morning walk. Now, this example is interesting. What he says is, actually, he was walking on the beach in one of the countries in West. He saw that it was a harbor. There was a big ship which was being docked at the harbor. Harbor. At the same time, you see, when there are big ships, they cannot always come very much within the harbor. So what happens is, there are small boats which are called tugboats. They pull the ship very inside, because the water is very shallow. The ship in itself cannot travel. So the tugboat slowly kind of directs the ship near the harbor. In fact, the cargo is all dumped into the tugboat, much in the water, and then the tugboat comes to the land actually. So Prabhupada was showing to his disciples, do you see? They were wondering. Many times Prabhupada made this question, do you see? So they were asking, yes, Prabhupada, we see that there is a ship here and there is a small boat. Okay, what do you see? So they were thinking what Prabhupada wants to ask, because Prabhupada wanted to make a principle or a point from that. He told, just see that there is a big ship, very powerful, but being dragged by a small boat. It's a tugboat. Do you see? Again, he asked. So then the disciples connected, because he was talking about this particular principle. Can someone connect it to our subject of discussion? What is the ship and what is the boat? What's the ship and what's the boat?
Is it this, that we are small like a boat and
Okay. Actually, we are of a higher nature like the ship, and the material nature is inferior like a tugboat. And tugboat is actually pulling the ship. Are you able to connect? How is it that soul comes under the control of material nature? That's the discussion, right? So how is it that such a big ship comes under the control of tugboat? How did it come under the control of tugboat in this particular situation?
Because
Because
Material desires, Prabhu?
no, let's just think about the context of the ship and the boat, not desires now.
Because it is on the shore, bro, not in full water.
It's on the shore, okay. Ram Reddy Prabhu says it's on the
Is
shore.
trying to control the ship. The tugboat is trying to control.
Yeah, but ship is far
Because
powerful. It need not
boat is
come
try-
under
the boat is maneuvering the ship to the
Yeah, but ship is more powerful. It need not become.
but it needs a momentum.
Prabhuji, the ship has surrendered to the tugboat.
Ship's engine is off, first of all. Ship has put its engine off and it is letting the tugboat control it. When the jiva forgets his spiritual nature, he lets the Maya control it. See here, Prabhupada's statement. Owing only to forgetfulness of his spiritual nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. This explanation, of course, Prabhupada has made it very concise, but it is very elaborately discussed in Upanishads. How is it that jiva becomes entangled in this world? Actually, it is sometimes very inconceivable to understand how it happened. Another one interesting story I heard in this regard, I would just like to narrate that story. It's a very famous story. I think it was made into a movie also, if I'm not wrong. There was a lion which got lost when it was very young, and it went into a community of lambs, and it forgot its nature. Basically, it started behaving like lamb until someone from the lion community came and made him realize who is he. So he had forgotten it fully. Though it is potential, he has that potential of being a lion, having that power, but still he could not act on it. He had to be reminded by someone. Similarly, someone please complete. Similarly,
We need a Guru Prabhuji to make us identify that we are stuck in this material world.
Actually, the Jiva is like the lion. He is of a very superior nature. But he is identifying with the lamb like material body. And that's why he becomes controlled by the material body. If you see the statement, this small anecdote makes more sense. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of body, can be beyond these conditions if he so desires. Who actually has to make that transition? It is he himself. If he so desires, it is the desire which is binding the jiva. This is the point here actually. So he is living in the body which is like a city. It is external to him because he has desired to enjoy separate from Lord. He is identifying with this material body, and that's why he suffers. If he so desires, he can immediately become beyond those conditions. This is the point which Prabhupada is explaining. Can someone please read the further highlighted part? When one takes to
Krishna consciousness,
yes.
one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates.
He becomes aloof from the bodily activities. He lives happily in the city of 9 gates. So Prabhupada quotes this shloka from Upanishad, which actually lists those 9 gates. What are those 9 gates? There are 7 above, 2 below. 7 actually in the face itself. So Prabhupada translates that. Can you read the highlighted part?
Yes. The body consists of 9 gates: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, the anus, and the genitals. The living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body.
So Karma Yogi, so far who had an attachment to this world and the body, now he slowly starts to turn his attention and focus towards the Supreme Lord, especially Paramatma. And that's when his detachment from the body becomes much more easier. So this is the beginning of his transition. Slowly you will see in the shloka itself, it becomes very evident in the further shlokas. So Prabhupada at the end says a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities of material body. We can understand outer activity. What is inner activity? Do you notice this? Prabhupada has written inner activities of material body. What is the inner activity?
Renounce from mind, Prabhuji.
Mind.
No, renounce from mind. That's true. I'm asking a little more discreetly. It's not about renunciation. I'm just asking what is the inner activity of material body and what is outer?
Inner is desires, Prabhuji.
Inner is desires. So what makes that inner covering? What makes that inner covering?
I couldn't understand your question.
Body?
It's mind, it's subtle body. Yeah, the inner body is nothing but, inner material body is nothing but subtle body. The inner activities of material body is the actions of those mind, intelligence, and false ego. And outer activities are nothing but the gross body's activities, like that. So Krishna conscious person, he becomes free from both. He doesn't identify with the both. Like sometimes people think, I am the mind, I am what I think, I am this desire, I am made up of this, and this is what I am. So from these he becomes detached. So going ahead, Krishna further explains how a jiva is actually not connected to this body. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu
Lokasya srujati prabhu
na karma phala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate. So Atma, who can never be in touch with the matter, can never do any material action. Na karmani. Therefore, he cannot be attributed the responsibility for reactions of the material action. Na kartritvam. He doesn't create the actions, nor is he responsible for the actions. And surely the results of the actions he should not be attached to. That is na karma phala samyogam. And lastly, then who is making the action happen? That would be an important question to ask. It is the jiva only which is conscious. The body is not conscious. The body is unconscious. Is it not? We always say the material body is always dead. Is it not? So what makes the dead body show life symptoms is the presence of soul. So there, the desire has to be a symptom of the soul. Then who is desiring it? That's an important question. So for that, it is described as swabhavastu pravartate. What is swabhava translated here? Someone please read meaning of it, word to word meaning.
The modes of material nature.
The modes of material nature. So let us see how that happens. We will read the translation and I'll take the question after this. Surely, Prabhu. Please read the translation.
Yes, Prabhu. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
In this shloka, it is mentioned as Prabhu. So the jiva who is trying to lord over, who wants to behave as Prabhu, for him it is described like this. That he doesn't create, nor does he induce people to act. Actually, it is not about the Supreme Lord. It is the jiva itself, but the jiva is very sarcastically called as the Prabhu or the Lord, because he can never be the Lord. He is only trying to be the Lord. Someone please read that highlighted text. Prabhu, Mataji, please continue. The living entity.
The living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or nature of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow, the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial.
See, from when is this association of soul and the matter has come into being? It is from time immemorial. It's time immemorial. You cannot actually trace when was it that it happened first time. So it's been a great discussion subject in the Upanishads on how or when actually the soul fell into this material food. Actually, someone asked Prabhupada like this, then Prabhupada told, just like when a person has fallen into the ocean, you don't ask about when he actually fell into the ocean. That would be most impractical to ask him. What would be the important thing to do is you throw a life rope and try to pull him out. Instead of trying to guess or speculate when actually it happened, which is very inconceivable, best is to work on how to get out of it at this right moment. That's how Prabhupada took that question and answered it. But nonetheless, it's been a very discussion subject in the Shastra. So Prabhupada has told here that it is from time immemorial. Can you read the further part, Prabhu? Living in such a
conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body.
The body.
It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress.
Yeah. So earlier we were thinking that desire of the soul is what makes the jiva suffer. But here it is now qualified. What is it? It's the ignorance which affects the desire of the jiva, and that becomes the cause of bodily suffering and distress. Continue reading. As long as
he is in the city of body, he appears to be the master of it. But actually, he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions.
Correct.
He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil.
So, like this, Krishna explained that it is not the jiva who is directly the cause, but it is the ignorance which has covered the jiva, and that becomes the cause of his bondage. In this statement becomes more clear in the next shloka's third line. So we will take that shloka. Before that, Varun Prabhu, you want to ask something?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the previous shloka, I think the second last line which we were discussing, and it reads as, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body.
Correct.
This is slightly confusing, Prabhuji. I didn't get it.
This one, right? When he identifies the shloka's translation, Shvetashvatar Upanishad.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what it means is, when he understands, like, you remember that analogy, the famous analogy of two birds on the tree, which is actually told in the Upanishads. The two birds, vrikshe samanasya dvikhage. Khaga means that birds. So one of the bird was too much identified with that tree. He is interested to eat the fruits of the tree. But when he identifies himself with the other bird, oh, here is my friend who is telling something beneficial for me, then he will be detached from that tree. So that's how it is explained here. So this actually shloka comes in continuation of that only. After describing the position of soul and super soul within the body, which is a material body, super soul is not attached to the body, but jiva is attached to the body. Then it is told jiva can become detached from the body when he identifies with the Lord. Just like when the bird starts to turn towards the other well-wishing, accompanying friend, then he can become detached from that tree. Is that clear?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So Krishna continues this principle. He concludes it in this shloka number 15. Now one may say the jiva is spiritual. It can never do any action in the world. Then why at all at the end you have to make him suffer? This is something which is very difficult to reconcile in the heart. So it should be the Lord who should be made to suffer. Somebody angrily says like this also. Who has made the jiva get caught up in this body? So pitiful is the condition of the jiva, and it is Lord who has placed him like this. So Lord should be punished. Like that, somebody may question. For which Krishna says the next shloka. Nadate kasyachit papam.
Nadate kasyachit papam.
Nachaiva sukritam vibhu.
Nachaiva sukritam vibhu.
Ajnanena vritam jnanam.
Ajnanenavratam jnanam.
Tena muhyanti jantava. So the word vibhu, can someone see the word to word meaning of vibhu? Yeah, what's the word to word meaning?
Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord. Actually, it is reflecting the super soul. So the super soul, he is not to be attributed the papa. He should not be given the reaction of papa or even punya, sukritam. He is not the cause of that. In fact, it is ajnana which has covered the jnana of the jiva. Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. That is what is making the jiva desire so distortedly, and that is what is making the jiva bind to this world. Read the translation. Nor does
the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities.
Yes.
Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
So it is not the Atma who is the cause of action. It is not the reaction doesn't go to Prakriti, because Prakriti is only it's unconscious. It is just following the orders of the super soul, and super soul also cannot be attributed these activities because he has been beyond all of them. So trying to reconcile all of this, sometimes this diagram is made. I just made this chart from hearing from another very nice teacher of this particular section. So the soul, actually, what he does, he only can desire. He only can express his intention. Say, suppose the soul within, he can express the desire, say, I want to eat, say, some pakoda. I was crossing the particular very famous shop, and I got to smell it, and the sense object smell, the sense of smell, it perceived it. And now I'm getting a desire to eat the pakoda. The desire is coming from the soul. Of course, the experience of earlier eating was in the mind, so mind influenced the soul. Hey, this is the earlier experience. Just refer to it. And the soul told, oh yes, I want it. So he desired it. Because he identifies with the body, he desired it. But can he himself do it? No. The soul, when he desires, the very next to him is super soul. Very closest person to the soul is super soul. So he understands the desire of the soul even before soul realizes it. So he checks, okay, does this soul has the necessary karma? Does it deserve what he is desiring? If he deserves, then he sanctions. So the super soul sanctions. Okay, I am sanctioning you. You remember now that you have the money in your pocket, you pay that. So the hand goes, so the hand and the rest of the things are actually part of material nature. So the mind, the intelligence orders the hands and legs to move forward. The money is taken out, it is paid. And material nature, that is the body, it procures the pakoda and it feeds into the sense, that is the taste, tongue. So like this, actual action of eating happens. So in any action, we will see these three actors or doers. They are called three doers. The first doer is Jiva. The first actor is Jiva. What does he do? He desires. The second is Paramatma. What does he do? He doesn't desire, nor does he even execute. What he does, he only sanctions. He is neutral. He is neutral like a judge. He just sanctions. And who is the third one? Who is the third one in this particular Prakriti? Yeah. And what is the role of Prakriti here? He can
Supplies.
He executes or he facilitates. He provides the facility. Actually, super soul orders, then material nature functions. So like this, every action happens in our life. We can actually evaluate it. So that's why, because sometimes in the Shastras you will hear that, hey, Jiva is the doer. What does it mean? Hey, Jiva, be very responsible in what you desire. If you desire wrongly, then you have to bear the reaction. If you desire for spiritual thing, you will be elevated, you will be liberated, you can even perfect. So sometimes the spotlight is on Jiva. Some other time you will see in Shastras, the spotlight is on Paramatma. Hey, everything is by the order or sanction of Paramatma. Without Paramatma sanction, not even one action can happen. Why is that told? It is told so that Jiva understands the superiority of Paramatma. I may desire, but if it is not sanctioned by Paramatma, I can't do anything. I cannot force Paramatma to sanction for me. It is he who is ultimate. And sometimes the spotlight is on material nature to show that even after a desire, it is actually material nature who is fulfilling it. I cannot even fulfill my desire. I need material nature to fulfill it for me. Like this, Jiva is sometimes told to become humble. So in different contexts, the spotlight is put on one of these three tripods. So one should understand what is the purpose of that context and not be confused about it. Is this clear, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So this is a very important concept, understanding of a karma yogi, that actually I am desiring and that's why I have to get the reaction. So if I desire properly, if I don't desire for material objects, then I will not be getting the reactions. I will not be responsible for the reactions. The initiator of the action is Jiva. You see, everything starts happening because of desire. Is it not? So the action is initiated by the Jiva, and that's why the reactions are given to the Jiva. So that has to be kept in mind. So that's why he is very careful in what he desires. Now consider a devotee's case. What does he act on? He acts on the desires of whom?
Supreme.
Guru or the Supreme Lord. So he is not the initiator of the action. The initiator gets the reactions. Because he is not the initiator of the action, the reaction doesn't come to him. And Guru or the Supreme Lord, they are absolute. And that's why they will never get the reactions. Krishna has very clearly told it that he is not bound in this world. No reaction comes to him. And because Guru desires following the desire of the Supreme Lord, the same thing happens to him also. Like that. So that is the very special case of devotee. Yeah. So I hope this is clear. Now we will go to read the purport of Srila Prabhupada for this shloka number 16, which further makes it more. Actually, whatever I explained is based on this only. So let us read this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji,
Yes.
One
Yes,
clarification.
yes.
Prabhuji, one
Yes,
clarification.
Sanjay Prabhu. Yeah, yeah.
Prabhuji, when this
You got muted. You got muted, Sanjay Prabhu.
sorry, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Now, this desire and action both
Yeah.
are same and kind of same thing. If we desire and we don't act, then there is no action or reaction. If we desire and do an action, then this material nature and super soul, basically the entire circle gets covered for that.
No. So the Jiva is not capable to accomplish the action. He is only able to desire for that action. Like, another example which Baladev Vidyabhushan gives. Say, suppose a child wants to lift a ball. Okay.
Right.
So he is trying to lift the ball, but he himself is not capable. What happens is the father comes and lifts the ball from top, from above. He puts his hand and he lifts the ball. But the child thinks that he is lifting the ball. He's thinking that he's lifting the ball, but is he really lifting? No, he is not capable. The Jiva is so infinitesimal. He is not capable. You see, in one's own lifetime, we can see the very action which we were able to do, later we are not able to do. Where does that capability go? Okay, we may say time, we may say aging and all, but capacity should be there always, no, if it is there. Is it not? So Jiva is given a capacity at a right time, and later that capacity is taken away also. Are you getting, Prabhu, this part?
Yeah.
So he is actually not capable, and sometimes because he doesn't see the hand of the Lord, he thinks that he is the doer. that shloka was there. Ahankara vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. That is in this light, actually. Is this making sense?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So why does soul identify with the body, bro?
For that only last shloka I was telling you that story and that boat and
But why? I don't know, bro. I mean,
as I told, it's a very inconceivable thing that how a superior natured Jiva happened to identify with the material body. For this, Chaitanya Charitamrita says it actually happened time immemorial. You cannot trace that history back. But that's why Prabhupada was telling, do not try to dig that question of ununderstandable history. In fact, Upanishads also say this. It's inconceivable at how it happened. But nonetheless, what we can do, we can even see this happening, that we can disassociate from matter by our proper desires. That's what we can clearly see, that guidance or instruction from Lord. So that's what I'm trying to put it here. Okay, Mataji. Yeah. So if you see that word, Prabhupada told since time immemorial. That's how it is.
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu Akshay.
Yeah, my name is Srinivas, Prabhuji. My ID gone wrong. Okay, no problem, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So in the above example, right, in the previous example, I could see that is like manas, right, and which is desiring or which is aspiring. So, or the logical unit of buddhi, which is might be telling, right? So atma is different from manasu and buddhi also, right? So
actually,
how do we?
Mind is not desiring. Mind only stores one's experience. Okay. Actually, the desire is the function of the soul. But when the ajnana covers, then his desire is so conditioned by the past experiences. Then we say his desires are so much conditioned by mind that we say mind desires.
So mind is buddhi, right? I mean, I'm telling
mind
about
is mana. Intelligence is buddhi. Buddhi actually he can execute those desires. In the sense, he plans for those desires ahead. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a decision-making entity actually in the subtle body. So actually mind, intelligence and all are animated or actually become alive because of the Atma only. Otherwise, they are also unconscious.
Suppose, Prabhuji, someone is on a bed in a hospital, right? Then actually his mind will not be functional and there is no desires for him, but his Atma is there, he is alive, right? How do we contemplate our how do we tell them?
So what has happened is, we had discussed about consciousness. You remember in the second chapter, there was a discussion about consciousness, and consciousness is the symptom of the soul, and that is spread throughout the body. And we understand the consciousness by thinking, feeling, and willing. There was that word Prabhupada had mentioned. So that thinking, feeling, and willing are actually springing from the soul only.
Okay.
So when someone has entered a stage of coma, or some very bad state of body, then what has happened? The soul, which has actually the bodily, that is the external covering, has become dysfunctional. And the Atma, who is deep down within the covering, because of his identification, he is not able to act. He has identified with his body. It's a very simple thing. Prabhupada tells this. Suppose I have bought a new car. Okay. Yesterday I did not had a car, and today I got a new car. Okay. Yesterday there was a car standing near to my house, and someone threw a stone at it.
Okay.
I was happy. It was not making me feel sad about it. But today I have bought a car, and that car is standing next to my house, and someone throws a stone at it. Just giving an example. That pains me. Why? Because I identify with the car. That identification is what gives the misery.
Understood, Prabhuji.
So
Thank
the
you.
soul, when it identifies with a dysfunctional body, it is also inert. It is also, in coma state. It's not exhibiting much symptoms of life. Maybe just breathing or so. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yes, Varun Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one more a point. I think what we were discussing, and I think Sanjay Prabhu was also talking about that, and maybe that causes a confusion. Now the soul desires, right? So soul expresses a desire, and then so suppose I want to eat a gulab jamun, and then so one is desire, but after desire comes your action also, right? I mean,
Correct.
do I go and eat the gulab jamun or just contemplating and I just leave that? So that action part is not covered here, Prabhuji, in the diagram.
No, the action is happening because of the movements of the Prakriti. See, in the Prakriti comes everything outside the soul. Mind, intelligence, ego, senses, sense objects, everything comes into the material nature. So the further happening of the actions are see, like simple thing. A person got paralysis. Okay, what is he doing? His body is now no more fit to act because the material nature has made it dysfunction. But he is desiring, na? He is desiring, but Paramatma is not sanctioning because the karma is not right for him, and material nature is not facilitating.
So even the body is included in the material nature.
Yes, everything external to the soul, mind, intelligence, false ego, gross body that senses, all of that is material nature.
Prakriti. Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. So let's go to this purport and a little more about it. It becomes more clear. So please read the highlighted part.
The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins.
Yes.
A living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by the ignorance due to his limited power.
Limited power.
Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such a desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma or the super soul. And therefore, he can understand the desires of the individual soul. As one can smell the fragrance of a flower by being near to it, desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves.
So this is an analogy given here. I want one of you to please help everyone understand this. So someone smells the fragrance of a flower by being near it. So what is compared to what? A person smells the fragrance of flower by holding it close to him. So what is compared to the flower or fragrance of the flower?
The desire is the flower, Prabhuji, here.
Desire is the flower. Think about it a little more deeply.
No, that is the fragrance is the flower.
Fragrance is flower. Say again.
So can I say it, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think the soul is the the fragrance of the flower is as the jiva desiring, and one can smell. The super soul can understand because he is close to our soul. Is that it?
Correct. The fragrance of flower is the desire of the jiva. And just like one smells the fragrance of flower by being near it, The Paramatma who is near to the soul can immediately sense the desire of the jiva, and he fulfills it according to the deserving qualification. Is that clear? Very nicely, Mataji has put it. Huh? So please read the further highlighted
The
part.
Lord, however, can fulfill all desires. And the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy.
Here is the actual catch. Huh? See, this whole discussion should not make one feel pessimistic. Oh, I am so incapable that I can only desire. But please realize the power of proper desires, especially when one desires the Supreme Lord and his association. The Lord himself comes to help, leaving aside his neutral nature. He becomes very especially interested in someone who wants to come to him. That's what Prabhupada says here. However, when one desires Krishna consciousness or Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way. Otherwise, Lord is neutral. Even if a person is getting the material happiness or even he is getting suffering, he's just neutral. Because the jiva is desiring, he has to take the responsibility of it. Sometimes in the Shastras it is told, you see, the Lord is actually engaging the jiva in a pious actions. What does it mean? It means that Lord is permitting, sanctioning the jiva who is desiring to do pious activity, and that's when he does pious activity. The Lord is engaging him to do impious activity. Sometimes the Shastra says it. What does it mean? It means the Lord permits or sanctions the jiva who desires to do impious activity. So the Lord is neutral. He is permitting or sanctioning. This tattva principle is explained more in the 13th chapter, where the role of Paramatma is told in one shloka. Upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatme pichapyukto tehesmin purusharshava. This shloka comes in 13th chapter, and this description of Paramatma is more detailed there. So Prabhupada at the end, he kind of puts this one statement. The embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Okay, so let's not be sorry about our past in trying to become paralytic in analyzing our history, but there is some futuristic action told here. Understand the power of right desires at this situation and progress ahead. Okay, so this is very important. And this jnana, what is the this is one realization which an advanced karma yogi gets here, and this jnana becomes so illuminating for him. So that benefit of that jnana is told in the next. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajnanam prakashayati tatparam. So Krishna says, Jnanena tu ajnanam. This jnana of three doers. The three doers are Jiva, Paramatma, and Prakriti. This knowledge, it drives away, it in fact destroys the ajnana. Ajnana nashitam atmanaha. And this knowledge is like adityavat. It is like sun. Like sun illuminates, like that this knowledge illuminates the personality of karma yogi. It illuminates, it enlightens him. Read the translation. Someone else can take up reading. Someone else would like to? Arvind Prabhu, thank you.
When Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
Sun lights up in the daytime. So Prabhupada describes what is that knowledge which is often described in the Shastra, the ultimate knowledge? Prabhupada highlights that. Read this highlighted part.
Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is the knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders into Krishna. As is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse. Ahunam janmanam ante
Jnanavan
mam prapadyate. After passing through many births, when one perfect knowledge surrenders to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime.
Just like when we go to the sun, everything becomes so bright and clear. One is not in ignorance. Similarly, when one understands the three doers, what is it that rightly I should do as an action? What is it that I should not desire? Becomes so clear like the sun, everything under the sun. So Prabhupada further says, read the even
though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body, but in transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. However, he can know everything, everything will well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna consciousness spiritual master.
So one who knows that he is not this body may not necessarily know about the super soul. He may know that the soul is also equal with super soul, not max. He will not understand the difference between soul and super soul. Super soul and soul are always individuals. They can never become one. So this can be understood when one properly hears from spiritual master. One should know the difference between the super soul and the jiva, and then one can actually further progress. This is the aspect of God realization. Read the last highlighted part.
At night, we see everything as one in the darkness. But in daytime, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with the individuality in spiritual life is the real knowledge.
The last line is very important, very nicely put. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is the real knowledge. So one should know one's identity as soul, and that's individual, and that's not one with the super soul. That kind of identity is the real knowledge. So after understanding this super soul as an important factor in one's life, now the Karma Yogi wants to surrender to that super soul. Here comes an evolution of Karma Yogi. He starts to focus his meditation on super soul. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas.
Tad buddhaya
tadatman.
Tannishthas tat parayana.
Tannishthas tat parayana.
Gacchantya punaravrittim. Jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. So the word tat is repeated 4 times. Tat, 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 tat. But it is mentioned tat buddhaya, tat atmanaha, tat nishtaha, tat parayana. So tat means here super soul. Okay. So the buddhi is fixed on the super soul. The atma, here the atma means mind. You see the word to word meaning? What's explained there? Mind.
Yes.
Mind it is put. So atma can mean many things. It should be properly understood according to context. So the first is one focuses one's mind on super soul. The second is one focuses on buddhi, intelligence on super soul. Then the second is one focuses on mind on the super soul. The third is one focuses one's faith, nishtha, on the Supreme Lord or super soul. Then lastly, he wants to surrender to that super soul, parayana. These are all different, though it looks very much the same. And such a all encompassing surrender. He has taken fully shelter of super soul by these 4 distinguishing features. By fixing his intelligence, mind, faith, and ultimately he wants to surrender to Super Soul. By this, he has taken full shelter of the Super Soul. Like this, when he does, he will no more come back to this world, apunarabhritim, and that will completely cleanse him from misgivings, kalmasha. Read the translation. When one's
intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed in him, then become fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
So, fixing one's intelligence in the Supreme Lord means understanding how the shelter of the Supreme Lord is actually the true shelter, eternal shelter. Fixing one's mind on Supreme Lord means feeling an attraction to the Supreme Lord. Mind actually goes where it gets attracted. So in intelligence there is conviction. In mind there is attraction. So we may be very intellectually understanding how Krishna is supreme, I should take shelter. But unless we feel attracted to Krishna, the surrender is still incomplete. Is it not? So then faith, okay, one may be convinced, one may feel that attraction, but one should necessarily have that faith. Yeah, serving Krishna, surrendering to Krishna is actually ultimate. I don't need to turn to any other shelter. And lastly, refuge. Refuge means after taking surrender, he doesn't desire anything else from that surrender. Like say, suppose someone surrenders to a devata. Okay. He surrenders to a devata to get some material benefit. Someone may surrender to Krishna for some material benefit. Like there is a very classic example in Bhagavatam, a very great king called Pururava. Have you heard about him? There's a very great king who comes he's an ancestor of Lord Krishna only. In the Yadavansha he comes, Pururava. Actually, he happened to get association of a very great, beautiful lady by name Urvashi. And later, he lost her association because of there's a very long story to it. I will not go to that. And later he lost that. But now he desires to attain that association of that great Apsara, beautiful Apsara. Now what he does, very interesting, he starts worshipping Lord Vishnu. For a long time he worships Lord Vishnu. And at the end, Lord Vishnu appears to him. And guess what he does? He glorifies Lord Vishnu, but he prays to get Urvashi's association. Okay. So he had intelligence. Yes, I should worship. He had that attraction to Krishna. And then he had that faith. So he did that tapasya. And at the end, when Lord appeared, he didn't take refuge in the Lord, but he, used Lord to get Urvashi. That's what means surrender, refuge. Refuge means you surrender to Krishna to desire Krishna. That's called a refuge. Not that we surrender to Krishna to desire to attain something like liberation or some material desire fulfillment, or some perfections. No. So these four things comprise the full shelter of the Lord. And when one does this, one actually becomes cleansed fully. So please read the highlighted part, Prabhu. Supreme transcendental
truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of a Godhead.
In fact, all the Vedic literatures proclaim, Krishna himself says that also in Bhagavadgita. Read the below highlighted part.
Krishna consciousness person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, identity and individuality in Krishna, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation.
So after describing the position of the super soul, now the Lord is describing how to take that shelter. So from here, from shloka number 18, there is more description about the Paramatma Vadi. Now the Karma Yogi kind of becomes a Paramatma Vadi. Paramatma Vadi like Brahmavadi. You understand these words earlier we have seen. Brahmavadi, Paramatma Vadi, and Bhagavan Vadi or Bhakta. So he is now more focused or meditating on Paramatma. So what are his inner, vision to the world? How does he behave in the world? When one has realized Paramatma, how does he think and how does he act? So how does he think is explained from this 18th shloka up till 22. That is another 5 verses. And how does he act will be explained for another 4 shlokas, 23 to 26 after that. So we will see how does he think in shloka 18.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
yes.
In the previous shloka, can you please help me to understand what is it meant by duality, Prabhuji?
Oh, okay, this duality. That there is duality in Krishna.
Yes,
this
Prabhuji.
one? Okay. See, duality in
identity and individuality. So
this is simultaneous identity here means how the soul is identical with Krishna because the qualities are of spiritual nature.
Yeah, this is about the soul, Prabhuji. Understood now. Okay.
Now individuality means how it is different or individual. It's Achintya Veda Veda only actually.
Got it, Prabhuji. Understood.
That is?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the shloka 18 describing how a Paramatma Vadi, a Karma Yogi, now focusing on Paramatma, thinks. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne.
Vidya Vinaya
Sampanne.
Brahmane Gavihastini.
Brahmane Gavihastini.
Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha. Pandita Samadarshina. So now that Paramatma Vadi is called as Pandita here. He is a Samadarshi. How is his equal vision? How does he think when he sees different kind of jivas? There are jivas who are in goodness, like Brahmana. You're seeing this, or like even cow, Gavi, that also can be put under goodness, but nonetheless it's an animal. Hastini is an animal that is elephant. And there is Shuni means dog. Shvapaka means a eater of dogs. So Hastini is passion and Shuni and Shvapaka is ignorance. So this Pandita, this Karma Yogi with an understanding of Paramatma, he sees the jivas of different material nature, modes of material nature, say goodness, say passion, and say ignorance. All of them he sees equally. How does he see equally? What is it that is equal in all of this? It's not the body, surely. What is that it is equal in all of this? Who can say?
The part and parcel of the Supreme Soul.
Let's have the context in mind when we are trying to answer this. Okay, so surely the Atma in all of them is of same nature, right? The body, the external covering is different. Like one is Brahmana body, the body is more of goodness. One is elephant body, it's more of passion. Dog or dog eater is more of ignorance. So the body is surely not sama or equal. So what is equal? Someone please help. What is equal among all of this?
Atma, Prabhuji. Soul.
Atma, okay, Atma. Does this person has any more understanding what is equal among all of those? Please have the context in mind. I'm again saying it.
That they are all material coverings.
Okay, fine. Material coverings, but they are different type of coverings. Essentially material nature, but there is something more which is common across all of them. Have the context in mind.
Their relationship
God.
Paramatma. The context is of Paramatma, right? So he's seeing not just they are all identical or equal because there is Atma of same nature. But there is Paramatma also present in each of this. It is that one Paramatma who is present. So the common denominator among all of them is Paramatma. So his equal vision is not just based on that, oh, they are all Atmas. No, his equal vision is based on, Are Paramatma is staying in each of them. Huh? So he respects because, oh, his dear Lord is dwelling in those bodies. He respects them. Doesn't mean necessarily he acts similarly with all of them. Why I'm saying this is Prabhupada tells in a lecture. The Paramatmavadi knows that there is super soul in a tiger's body and in a deer's body or a cow's body, but doesn't serve a tiger by embracing like he does it for the cow. So there is a difference in action, but surely his vision is all are identical in the sense that Paramatma is staying. This Vidya he has. He is humbled by this vision. Vinaya Sampanne. Read the translation.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see equal vision, a learned, a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater.
Dog eater. Yeah. So Prabhupada says something in the purports. Read the highlighted part.
The Brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or dog, cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion, as the Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge.
So here you see, the Prabhupada is telling Paramatma is present in every jiva. Such an understanding of the Supreme they have got. Little more below, Prabhupada says the similarity.
The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. Further, individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body.
Some spiritual paths say that when one is conditioned, he realizes, oh, there is a distinct super soul. But when one becomes awakened, he merges himself with that super soul. But that is not approved. That's surely wrong. Prabhupada says here, the super soul should not be equated with the soul. They are always individual. So this should be kept in mind when super soul realization. So furthermore, describing how does a person meditating on Paramatma thinks of this world. Ihaiva tairjita sargo.
Ihaiva
tairjita sargo.
Yesham samye sthitam mana.
Yesham samye sthitam mana.
Nirdosham hi samam brahma.
Nirdosham hi samam brahma.
Tasmad brahmani te sthita. So this person who is meditating on Paramatma, he sees Samya. He sees Samya means equanimity. In what? In Sarga. Sarga means the creation and annihilation, both actually. Birth and death. He sees equanimity in birth and death. Oh, here the Jiva is born. That means he is created. Oh, he is dying means he no more exists later. No, he doesn't think. He sees that, okay, birth is there, that means there will be death also, and death has happened means there will be birth also at a later time. So this equanimity he sees, and in this way he becomes nirdosha. He attains the spiritual nature and becomes like Brahman. Read the translation. Those
whose minds are established in a sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of the birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
Brahman, that's the spiritual nature. Read the highlighted part, equanimity of mind.
Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from a conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death.
See, there is often description about equanimity in Bhagavadgita, but one should know what is the reason or cause of that equanimity. What is that vision of that yogi which is making him see the world in a equal-minded nature? For a self-realized person who knows, who sees everything as Atma, he is equal-minded. For one who not just sees Atma, but is also seeing Paramatma, he is equal-minded at a higher stage. For one who sees not just Paramatma, but that Paramatma as a representative of Bhagavan, who is accompanying out of causeless mercy, and ultimately the soul is a servant of Krishna. One who sees it like this, he is equal-minded at a higher level. So the externally, everyone is looking the whole world equal-mindedly. Equanimity it is called. But the vision is deeper and deeper and deeper. One is of Brahman realization, seeing everything as Atma. Another is of Paramatma realization, seeing Paramatma present in every jiva. And the ultimate realization of Bhagavan, wherein Bhagavan has expanded as Paramatma and everyone is ultimately servant of Krishna. This is the Bhakta's realization, Shuddha Bhakta's realization. So equanimity may be at different depths based on one's realization of absolute truth. That's the point. So text number 20 further describes the vision of a Paramatma realized person. Na prahrishyet priyam prapya. Nodvijet prapya cha priyam.
Nodvijet prapya cha priyam.
Tira buddhir asammudho.
Tira buddhir asammudho.
Brahmavid brahmani sthita.
Brahmavid brahmani sthita.
So na prahrishyet. Prahrishyet. Harsha means becoming happy. Na prahrishyet means to become happy. When he gets what he desires, priyam prapya. जब उसका प्रिय वस्तु को वो प्राप्त कर लेता है तो वो हर्षित हो जाता है. That's the word. But he doesn't become overly happy when he gets what he desires. And similarly, it is told, Nodvijet prapya cha apriyam. When he gets something he doesn't want or desire, then he doesn't become overly sad or disturbed. So in that sense, he is sthira buddhi. He is fixed or fixed conscious. Such a person truly has understood Brahman. He is unbewildered. Someone else want to take up the reading? Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Someone else would like.
Prabhuji, I can read.
Please read. A person.
A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbelieved, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence.
Actually, at this moment, I just recollected how Srila Prabhupada exhibited this quality so well. When he was striving in India for preaching and he was facing failure after failure after failure, he did not become so disappointed, even become dejected. No, he continued doing his efforts. He did not become very sad, or as it is told in this shloka translation, he doesn't lament when he did not get a pleasant results. And when he went to West and amazing results started coming beyond his expectation, he did not rejoice overly when he received something so pleasant. He was always equal-minded in that sense. Actually, Srila Prabhupada himself told, Krishna tested me twice. First time by not giving what I always looked for, or what I was always preaching for. I was not getting result. Second time, he gave me so bountiful, so much, beyond my expectations. That time also he tested. How will he behave? So that way, a true yogi, a true spiritualist, or a devotee, one of his defining characteristic is he will not be disturbed when he gets opposite reactions. So such a person is situated in transcendence. Can someone read the highlighted part, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called Shrita Buddhi.
Sthira Buddhi.
Sthira Buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregards the existence of the soul.
So, very interestingly, Prabhupada writes, he is therefore never bewildered by mistaking gross body for soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of soul. So very interesting words describing it further. So going ahead, how does such a person focusing on meditation on Paramatma sees the further shloka? Bahya sparsheshva saktatma vindatyatmanyata sukham Sabrahma yoga yuktatma Sukham akshayam ashnute. So one who understood how he is situated in the body and how actually super soul wants him to elevate from the body, he doesn't get attracted to bahya. Here bahya means anything which is connected to body. It doesn't get attracted to body and the happiness which it promises. It doesn't get attracted to bodily happiness. Especially the word is used sparsha. And Prabhupada connects this to one of the great hankerings or desires of conditioned soul, that is sex life. So he becomes completely disinterested. Asaktatma, bahya sparsheshu asaktatma. See the word-to-word meaning of bahya sparsha. It is told as external sense pleasure. And by not becoming attracted to external sense pleasure, he derives happiness from the soul and from the connection of soul with super soul. Vindati atmani yat sukham. Such as happiness, he feels so unlimited, akshayam, and he perfectly situates himself in transcendence. Read the translation.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
So Prabhupada expands more on the first line of the shloka. He is not attracted to material sense pleasure. He quotes a very famous shloka, which he had quoted so many times in second chapter, Yamunacharya's shloka, of his realization after he has attained a great state in Krishna consciousness. How does he see to the material happiness? It is explained here that since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord Krishna, and I'm finding ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at that thought and my lips curl with distaste. It's a realization of a very advanced bhakta actually. So the sadhakas, they understand that this external sense pleasure is actually very insignificant. Prahlad Maharaj told Tuchhavat. They may have very momentary slips, or in the sense of attraction towards it, that is there because he is not pure in the consciousness. At the same time, they are also striving for serving Krishna. So we can derive what is it that the higher state of Krishna consciousness awards a person. It actually makes a person become detestful about the sense pleasure of this world. He starts to dislike it. Oh, this is not of really worthy effort. It is really not worthy to strive for in life. He becomes understanding this. He in fact shifts his focus to serve Krishna. So Prabhupada writes in the further part. Can you read this, Mataji?
Yes. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of the matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under his spell. And a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the taste of in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together.
So very interestingly, Prabhupada marks here, the whole world is moving under its spell, and material, what is written here? And a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. You see, in today's world, every promotion of or advertisement of anything has something to do with this, is it not? So they always increase or aggravate a person's craving for sex pleasure, and that's why they sell their products through that. But it's very interesting mentioned here. A person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without this hankering. There is one incident of Srila Prabhupada which comes. When we see the actions of pure devotees, what is it that impels them to work so hard? We can understand how a greater motive to please Krishna is superior compared to the drive for satisfying one's urges of body and mind. So Srila Prabhupada, he worked so hard. It was told that the personal servants of his would had hard time to keep up with him. He would get up so early in the morning. He would be, in deep meditation, chanting names of Krishna, and then he would start translating. After hours of translating, he would get ready to go out for morning walk, giving detailed explanation about the spiritual truths in discussion. And whole day he would spend in traveling, speaking Krishna Katha, meeting several people till late at night. And he had so packed schedule. And everywhere he went, he only kept changing the hour stick in his watch. But his body always kept functioning in the same manner. There was no jet lag or jet lead, whatever you call it. So it was so wonderful for his disciples. There are many accounts of how Prabhupada functioned really beyond his bodily platform. He worked with great vigor. So the jiva's drive to please Krishna is far superior than its drive to fulfill one's material cravings. And one should actually awaken that attraction. When one awakens that attraction to Krishna, he can actually rise beyond this material urges, sex pleasure very easily. One great example is there in devotional service, that is Haridas Thakur. Very vivid example, is it not? He got such a higher taste, especially in chanting holy names, that he did not feel any slightest distraction when there was promise of so much of material pleasure in front of him. So one should try to always exercise a lot of caution to not glide down to these traps of material nature. At the same time, one should understand, I have to develop higher taste. I have to develop that attachment and attraction to Krishna. It's urgent for me because I want to rise above this bodily urges. So it is urgent for me. So one should develop that attraction with the intensity. So Prabhupada says here, spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. One of the very strong statements of Prabhupada. So further, how the person focusing on super soul sees the world, the last of that series. Yahi samsparshaja bhoga
Yahi
He samsparshaja bhoga
dukkha yonaya evate
Dukkha
dukkha
yoyona
yonaya
evate
adyantavantah kaunteya
Adantavantah
Kaunteya
Kaunteya
nateshu ramate buddha.
Natesu ramate buddhaha.
So there was a word called bahya sparsheshu asaktatma. But how that happens is explained in the next sloka actually. So it is told here, yehi samsparshaja. That word is there, see sparsha, the same word in the earlier also. So he sees that the happiness which is born of sense and sense objects interaction, samsparshaja, is dukkha yoni, is actually the source of unhappiness, sadness, dukkha yoni. And such an happiness is qualified as adi, that means it has an origin. It is antavantaha, it ends at a certain time. Knowing that it is temporary, it is born at a time and it ends at a time. The person who is intelligent, it doesn't relish or dwell in it. Nateshu ramate buddha. See, at least one should try to understand intelligently, at least at the intellectual platform. When we desire something external, especially for our senses, we should know that some of the things we cannot attain. You know, say suppose I am sitting and I desire a great fortune, so a great wealth, say to become a billionaire. Oh, it is simply not attainable. It is not attainable. Okay, even if I attain it, will it be relishable? Will it be palatable? Maybe for a very little time, but after that it dies down. Is it not? It is not palatable, and surely it is not retainable. Can I be a billionaire all the time in my life? I will have to lose that wealth at a certain point of time. So the material happiness is not attainable. Okay, if I attain it, it cannot be giving me happiness all the time. It is not very retainable and ultimately it's not palatable and it is not retainable. I cannot hold it for a long time. So such an understanding, with that understanding, a person becomes uninterested. Read the translation. An intelligent person
does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses, O son of Kunti. Sense pleasure have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
Yeah, he does not delight in them. So Prabhupada says interesting thing. Please read the first highlight. I'm highlighting it. Please read.
Yes, no problem. Material sense pleasure are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary.
A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. So Prabhupada defines how a liberated soul relishes. He relishes by actually engaging with the supreme truth, and that's why that truth is called Rama. The name Rama means he is the source of all pleasure. Iti Rama padenashau param brahma vidhiyate. The word Rama, which is there in Maha Mantra, one of the name of Lord Krishna is Ramana. Ramana means he actually relishes. We say the word Radha Ramana, is it not? So he relishes the company of Srimati Radharani, who is the personification of devotion. So Ramana, Ramati means one who enjoys or one who takes happiness. And Rama is someone who is the ocean of happiness, the source of happiness. So one who actually associates with the source of happiness can never be unhappy. And Prabhupada also says, in this world, everyone is looking for ananda or sukha, and that sukha is obtained when one attains the stage of Brahman, Brahma Saukhyam. So the last two conclusion of this purport is interesting. Please read this, Mataji.
Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasure, which are the cause of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasure, the more he is entrapped by the material miseries.
So the more one is addicted to pleasures, the more one is entrapped by miseries. This one should know actually. Okay, I understand this. No, but still it is very difficult. What should I do especially when I am not able to develop higher taste? What I should do? So for that, Krishna tells the next shloka. We will end with this shloka for today. So in fact, from here, what we see are the actions of Paramatmavadi. So far we saw how he thinks. Now we are seeing how he acts. Okay. So how he acts, the first thing is he tolerates. Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum.
Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum.
Praksharira vimokshanad.
Praksharira vimokshanad.
Kama krododbhavam vegam.
Kama krododbhavam vegam.
Sayukta sa sukhi nara.
Sayukta sa sukhi naraha.
So it is written here, sodhum. What's the word meaning of sodhum? Someone please check. Sodhum.
To tolerate.
To tolerate. So that is the first action of a Paramatmavadi or one who is focusing on super soul. He sees that the body is having an urge to take happiness from matter. It is so much forcing one. What one should do? One should tolerate. Like we have seen in Upadeshamrita first verse, it is told also there. Vishaheta dhiraha, that word was used. So Vishaheta also means to tolerate. So one should tolerate, understand. It cannot be quickly overcome because there has been so much of conditioning from so long. It will always be difficult to directly deal with it. So one should tolerate. One should protect oneself in good association and one should tolerate. Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum. One should be trying to tolerate it as long as one has body. Till when? Praksharira vimokshana. Till the time one has material body, one will have to tolerate this. What one has to tolerate? Kama, krododbhavam, vegam. This word has come, vegam. You see that vega which was there in first verse of Nectar of Instruction. The kama, the krodha, and all the vegas which are actually arising from it, he has to tolerate. And such a person only can be happy. Not the one who tries to fulfill them, but one who tolerates them. Read the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
So Prabhupada says very interestingly about Goswami, which was the discussion in the Nectar of Instruction. So he says, can you read this purport from beginning, Mataji?
Yes. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of stomach, forces of genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who
is this the translation of that verse?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, continue. Yes.
One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or the Swami. Such Goswamis live strictly controlled lives and forego altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger. and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be the self-realized and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger.
So, like this one particular action of the person focusing on super soul, that is tolerate, is seen here. So far, we saw so many on how he sees the world. There are furthermore many actions of his. We will see them in the further 4-5 shlokas. In the next session, that's on coming Wednesday, day after tomorrow, we will be almost completing this chapter and entering to 6th also. So what we saw so far in the vision section is kind of summarized here. Mataji, would you be able to read the vision of a self-realized
vision of self-realized soul?
So vision means how he thinks, how he sees the world, how he thinks about the world. Read.
First, equal vision to all living entities, irrespective of species and caste. No attraction, aversion of matter. Thus, he is flawless and impartial like the Lord. No rejoicing, lamenting for the material events. Intelligence fixed in self, and one knows the signs of God. Knows perfectly about 3 levels of absolute truth and constitutional position of the living entity. This is Brahman realization of self-realization. Never attracted to sense gratification because he understands that contact of senses with sense object is the source of misery and continual material existence. Sense pleasure is temporary and limited. He experienced great happiness within higher taste.
So that is coming ahead in 24. We have done till 23, but nonetheless, it is covered up till here. So why he doesn't become attracted to sense gratification? Because he sees that that is source of misery, and whatever pleasure the sense enjoyment promises is temporary and limited. So far we have seen this. In 24 we will see that further thinking. Anyway, the tolerance also is there in the next section. He tolerates the forces of desire. And
shall I read this, Prabhuji?
No, I think we have done only till here. The further is not done. We will see that in the next session. So thank you very much. I would like to conclude here itself. Today also there are many devotees for shloka test, and I had to keep my video off so many times because just to save the bandwidth. We will meet again Wednesday, and we will try to complete the 5th chapter. We will be completing. We will be having an off period for the next week. The Friday session, that is the next session on Wednesday, and the Friday session will be there. And after that, we will have an off for a week or 2, and maybe we will resume that. After that, we will tell you the dates when we will be able to resume. So I am almost seeing that we have come to the last chapters of the 6th, this unit, and please prepare for the second part of shloka test. We will be taking that second part of shloka test after this small break we will have from next week. So please prepare. And today we will have the shloka test of those devotees who have given their names. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavadgita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam.
So those who have given names can please stay back. Others are free to log off as you wish. Dasarath Prabhu, could you give the names of devotees who are there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So it is Lakshmikant Prabhu, Murari Prabhu, Meenu Mataji, Brahmaramba Mataji, Raja Ramesh Prabhu, Babu Ram Prabhu. 6 of them, Prabhu.
6 of them, yeah. So who is going first? So please raise hand and I will call them up and we will highlight them. You need to keep your video on, your eyes closed, and please start.